Unfiltered. This one officially go down. Episode number 277 in your scorecards. You can get on board 24/7, 365, Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts. We're now on Instagram. Give us a follow. We're newly live over there at Unfiltered with Casey Stern. And of course, where a lot of you get me on Twitter, or X, if you will, at Casey Stern. You jump up into the bio, follow through to the YouTube channel, like, subscribe, tell all your friends, all the content. Today's content, Metropolitan content, 2024, New York Mets. What do we expect as we sit tick, 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 counting down to first pitch at Citi Field, albeit a day belated? We, as always, are elated to be presented by our good friends at BetOnline, your number one source for all your sports betting needs. Latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, basketball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to get all your wagers, live casino and card games, all available right now from your phone. To get to the website or mobile device, sign up today, but use the promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. It'll get you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It's BetOnline, where the game starts, and I get started here. And that is deep breath, tempering some expectations, or maybe building them. It's weird because after a couple of years into Steve Cohen life, all Met fans had walked into seasons thinking this is going to be the year, especially when the team went out and won 100-plus games. But now, I think more tempered is the excitement, and more rightfully so. However, a lot of people wondering just how good can this team be? And it's a question I can't answer for you because that is going to play out on the baseball field. But I can tell you this. The team is happy to be good if that's what happens, but they're not trying necessarily to be good or great in 2024. They're trying to have sustainability in a division where the Atlanta Braves are an absolute albatross. They are a beast, and they are built with what Alex Anthopoulos and that staff have done to win each and every year. So the Mets got to figure out how to do that. That means that you bring in the Luis Severinos and the Sean Manaeas and JD Martinez, which I love that move. We'll get into that in a second. And you get one-year deals where, hey, look, if it works out, great. And maybe if the team is really good and surprises and is in a playoff race, then it works out great for us. But if not, then maybe it works out great for us in the long run. Move those pieces, and at the deadline become sellers. We're going to find out a lot about what this team will be, obviously, in the first couple of months. But I mentioned JD Martinez. Let's go there. That was a huge addition to this lineup. Being able to put him, when he's up with the big club, behind Pete Alonso in this batting order, being able to solidify some more depth, some more power, a professional hitter. I get the strikeouts. I get the swings and misses. That's going to happen. It's going to be a thing. But if he can even be a B-plus version of what he was last year, now 36, 37 years old, that's all the Mets can ask for, because you don't want to be in a world with the National League DH using 3 or 4 different guys to do it. And I hate to say this because people got pictures of Mark Vientos on their wall like they used to have with Dilson Herrera. But at the end of the day, Mark Vientos right now has holes in his swing, and he's kind of a AAA fringy 4A hitter with a lot of power who's got some potential to be an effective big leaguer and to be an answer and not a question. But is he going to be an impact player? He's not. And was he going to be at DH this year? He was not. Now, JD Martinez may not be, but he may impact the rest of the lineup with just the type of ABs and the threat and the presence that he will provide in the on-deck circle. Love that move. And I think it showed that even though David Stearns came in there, because look, people, if you don't understand this, get this, okay? David Stearns went in there to go help Steve Cohen fix this thing this time the right way. And that's not just with spending money, which we know he can do, and they will. And they tried on the one thing that made sense, and that was Yamamoto, and offered him $320 million, okay? But he's going to now look at this and say, how do I kind of, Coldplay, fix you? And that is you, this roster, and moving forward, give you a potential to win every year. And, look, JD Martinez and those kind of moves, especially when you're paying $4.5 million, rest prorated into the 2030s or whatever the hell it is, not going to affect you like what they did to the lineup. But there are questions in this batting order. What are you really getting out of Starling Marte this year? What kind of a year and what consistency level are we going to get out of Jeff McNeil offensively? Another question. How about the growth in the cat and mouse game, Francisco Alvarez? What do I mean by that? Young hitters, they come on the scene, they're trying to figure out pitchers. Then pitchers get a book, especially with all the analysis now on them. And then you got to go back the other way. And that's the way this game is played. People forget, I'm not comparing Alvarez with Aaron Judge, but even Aaron Judge was a guy who broke on the scene and was fantastic. All of a sudden, he had some struggles in whatever it was, year 2, I think it was. And you get Yankee fans jumping off the bandwagon. How's all that worked out to a $360 million or whatever it was, $1 million deal for Aaron Judge? So, let's take our time and let's watch and see how Alvarez's development continues, but it will do so behind the plate, and I think at it when he's got the bat. And speaking of development, one of the big questions this year is going to be how much do we see the Angel Acuñas and the Jet Williams and the Gilberts and some of these young players get into the fold. And I think some of that will be determined on how good the team is. But at the same time, you do not want to be a detriment to these kids because you're trying to win now. Because let me tell you about the win now, people. Creep all the way up to your computer or wherever. If you're only listening on Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcast, I'm waving you in. I'm waving you in. You have no chance. Zero, zilch, nada, none. Probability is zero. Literally. To be as good as Atlanta this year, to be as good as the Dodgers this year. Zero. You have zero chance to be a team that we're saying, oh my God, we didn't know it was going to be this way. But then look how Senga, Quintana and company led them to 95 wins. That is not going to happen in 2024. Please, if they win 9 of their first 10, I'm telling you still, remember I said it, yell at me, throw tomatoes at the screen, don't care, it's fine. Not going to happen, okay? It's not going to happen. Now, could they be in, the world of today we live in a wild card race, be a little bit above 500, have a chance, give you some meaningful games in September, maybe try and sneak in the back door? Yeah, it's possible. Of course that's possible. If things roll right, that is possible, but that is the extent of what is possible. So you don't want to be a detriment to not let these kids get their feet wet because you're trying to sit there and sneak into a wild card. That is going to be something to watch as the season develops. We know clearly the development when Edwin Diaz got hurt was not a good one for the New York Mets. Having him back in the fold is absolutely huge for New York, and so happy to see him back on the mound. Even I am, look, be fair, look, I got the 86 photo behind me. I'm a Met fan. I don't hide it. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of sick of the trumpets too. Let's forget about trumpets and let's get strikeouts, okay? Let's just get outs. I don't care about trumpets anymore and Timmy Trumpet anymore. I want Eddie Diaz to sit there and be sugar on the mound and get some strikeouts. And the way he looked in spring, the way he has felt, all of that is positively leaning towards him being that stalwart on the back end of the bullpen. But what does the rest of the bullpen look like? There are chances it could be better than maybe we thought. But spring training and how things are simulated and how coaches and managers feel before the season is different than what we see in season. We await the answer to that. Speaking of coaches, one of my better friends in the game, and I'm so happy for Gibby to be on board and now to be behind at the helm, Carlos Mendoza, who is in his first year. And let's talk about what that means. That means you don't do the old go back Phillies Gabe Kapler where they're booing him on opening day. You don't sit there and do the old New York typical thing where if they sit there and he makes a mistake in the bullpen and some decision-making in the third game, say, oh, I told you he wasn't the guy, because I got news for you. Reel yourselves back in. Come all the way back in. He's not Craig Counsell. He's never going to be Craig Counsell. He could change his name legally to Craig Counsell, and he's not going to be Craig Counsell. And by the way, he's not Buck either, because he doesn't have that kind of managerial experience. But what he does is he's got the trust of the team. I'm not saying Buck didn't, but he does have that seemingly already, right? He's got a really good way of working with players. He's a guy who has paid his dues in organizations and understands what it takes to manage a baseball team. And now he will get to go through those motions. But a lot of managers, people, when they go through those motions, make mistakes. We allow rookies in every sport their first year. We allow freshmen in every high school. We anything you're new at, right? First date, allowed to be awkward. Doesn't matter. But when it comes to a manager or coach, you better not make mistakes, because now we are judging you right off the bat. There are going to be some mistakes. There are going to be some chip shot 27-yard, Blair Walsh kind of field goals that are missed here. Sorry if you're a Vikings fan, right? You're going to be some of that because that's what happens when you're a new manager in this sport or in sports in general. But give Mendoza time. I think it's a perfect fit because it's rare that you can get into the city of New York and in this market and not have that high-end pressure. And Carlos Mendoza is not going to have, in year one at least, that high-end pressure. So what do I expect from the Mets? I expect them to at times be more competitive than you think. But I do expect them to also at times struggle. And I'm very fearful of not having enough consistent solidified innings in the rotation, which then will tax the bullpen. And then even if the lineup is improved, is going to put you in some bad spots. They've got a very difficult uphill climb to try and battle with in the games they're playing against teams like the Braves and the Phillies in their own division. They're going to be a team that is going to be outmatched a lot of times from a starting pitching standpoint on the mound. They need to, as a staff, do a good job. And their defense, which is what David Stearns has relied on and the team has relied on, right? Yeah, Harrison Bader. I mean, they've done all sorts of things to try and preserve and save runs. It's going to be uber important because within the margins, the Mets have to win. But I do not think this is a playoff team this year. I think the Mets will hover and at times be a little bit over and at times be a little bit under the 500 mark. And then I think it'll come down to at the deadline, does the team make the tough decision that I think if these one-year guys are doing well, they should, and that is to think to the future and give those kids some time and set up to next year. And all of that puts you at probably somewhere around 75, 78 wins, not the 85, 88 that puts you in a position to make a playoff push. We'll see in 2024. Clearly, I will be hopeful, or at least try, and try not to look at Mets Twitter, because who knows? They could drive you to therapy directly without even watching the team. What is your thought on the Mets? What do you expect? And of course, yeah, LFGM. You know, I don't have to be unbiased today. It's fine. We, as always, are presented by our good friends at Bet Online. This is Unfiltered. Catch us on Instagram now live at Unfiltered with Casey Stern. Get on the YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and give me your comments along the way on this and all of our